Hello and welcome to another episode here on the Skiing is Believing podcast, officially brought to you by Ski Racing Media. This week, after a week off I was away in Spain having a great time whilst they won the World Cup and Alan was up in Scotland on a bit of a coach tour, so we've both had great times. Sorry for the lack of episode last week, but we were both having a bit of a break. But we are back now with this episode and a fantastic one that we've got to share with Katie Twible from Ski Racing Media. She's had a fantastic year in the job, working with Peter Lang very closely at Ski Racing Media, putting out that extraordinary content that we all see on a weekly basis, probably daily basis, during the winter. From my end, it has been an absolute pleasure to be a colleague of Katie's, and now to be able to interview her and share her story on the podcast was also a privilege. Very interesting. She goes into great depth about coaches, particularly female coaches, roles that she held with the Ontario ski team and the US ski team, working with that core now Women's World Cup tech group that are enjoying such successes. She also speaks about her current role and what it is like to be waking up in the early hours of the morning with two young children to look after, to cover these events and bring everybody the articles, the coverage, the content that we all see across their website, their social media. Katie's across it all, and it's been absolutely brilliant to work with her. If you want to read a little bit more about it, I put an article about this podcast and about Katie up on Ski Racing Media, so go and check that out. But without further ado, it is now my pleasure and the Skiing is Believing podcast's pleasure to share this fantastic episode with you and with Katie Twible. So enjoy. Katie, welcome to the Skiing is Believing podcast. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. This is super exciting.
Bit different, isn't it?
It is a bit different, yeah. Like, just being interviewed is different. Usually, like I said, like the interviewing part is easy. It's the being interviewed is, you're like, well, okay, here we go.
What are they going to ask? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fun though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Which do you prefer, Al?
Which do I prefer? I like this part. I like speaking to professional people. That does, to me, that is what it's about. I'm here trying to get as much information I can out of people who know more than I know, and then putting it out there so other people can pick up and improve their knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
I do. I think that's the best part for sure of being on the side of interviewing, is just trying to see people's life stories, beyond even just what we do in ski racing, right? And like getting to know them as the athlete, but also too getting to know them as the person, and what they do is just super cool. I think that is the best part.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we like doing it, though, isn't it? We set off by saying we need to let people know what these athletes are like. They are special, but they're human beings just like us, and it's just that they work so hard to get where they get, and they give things up, and we want everybody to know about that. Like we've had different people on, like about coaching and what people who deal with the brain and stuff, like Dr. Jim.
Yeah.
And it's about it's. I think it's all about that. But this is about you.
She won't like that. Let's get things started. I'm going to start kind of in and around this, scene as we mentioned the interviewing, because you've had the chance to interview some of the very top athletes. Like we are here, but also be on the ground at a couple of races last season. So was that the first time you did that? And what was that experience like, as opposed to being on the other side of the fence as a racer or coach?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, so I got this job. So Ski Racing Media hired me in August of last year. So I'm almost a year in the role. And I think, it was funny how I got the job, right? My sister actually was working with Ski Racing Media in this job 2 years prior to me, and really did such a phenomenal job doing it. And she now has moved on and is becoming a badass firefighter. And so I stepped into this role a bit because I started writing. I had a bunch of articles that I had started writing while I was postpartum with my second, and just things that I was really thinking about, that I went through as a coach, or just different articles that I like really felt like, okay, let's see if like these would run in ski racing media. And Ellie was like, yeah, these are great. Let's start like maybe a coach's corner. And so she published a couple of my articles and they did really well. And then she came to me and she's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this and stepping out of this role. Would you want to do this role? And I was like, Ellie, you went to school for all of these amazing things when it comes to website design and social media and communications and marketing. And I was like, I went to school for psychology and really didn't really go to school. It was more like get through school to be able to ski race. Right. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do any of these things. And she had set it up so well that for me coming into this role, it was pretty seamless. And I learned a lot of trying to, set up a website and help to run it and help to run social media marketing. And so, but the actual journalism part became pretty easy because I knew from an athlete and from a coach standpoint what athletes maybe want to be asked or when they want to be interviewed or not interviewed. And a bit of that too is also a downfall of me getting into this role because I'll be sitting there in the media, section at the bottom of the race, and I know exactly how those athletes are feeling, and I'm like, I don't want to interview them right now. When other people would like step right in and be like, hey, I want an interview. And I think because I know what it feels like to be on that other side, not in that, World Cup realm or as good as some of these athletes are, but you just know you're like that they're not ready for an interview. And so I think too, a couple times maybe I've missed out on those interviews, but for me, it's more, jumping into this role, it is always still about the athlete, and we're all here to, make sure that we are doing right by the athletes, even if we're in a journalism role. And that's why I also took the role with Ski Racing Media, because Ski Racing Media, I feel like, has been around for so long because they are trusted and respected by the industry, and they've done it by making sure they are doing what's right for the athlete. And that's something that Peter Lang and I stand by is, we know a lot about a lot and a lot of people, but we make sure that we, are putting things out there that enhance and improve this amazing sport. So I think that in the end is really, it allowed me to stay in ski racing, having two little ones. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I love coaching. I still do coach development whenever I can, both on the Canadian side and the American side. And I love that. Definitely coaching coaches is a whole different ballgame. I find it actually harder to coach coaches than to coach athletes. But this role has allowed me to stay in ski racing, be the fan that I am, because I'm such a huge fan of this sport and what it gives people and what it brings to communities. But it also allows me to be a mom and be available for my kids when they're little. And the roles that I had prior to having kids, you can't be as involved. It's hard to travel and do your job really well and still be able to be a mom full time. So it's just not, it's a give and take, right? You got to figure it out. And like people say, the days are long, but the years are short. So you adjust and you figure it out. And so this role in Ski Racing Media has allowed me to do it, which is really cool.
Is that a problem in itself? Jumping into something pretty big here quite soon, but you've seen many athletes, female athletes, almost have to sacrifice their professional careers, whether it be a sporting role, whether it be a coaching role, to become a parent, which for a lot of people is a dream in itself. I know that this is something that's been talked about, particularly with Paula Maltzahn and her fertility sponsor, that she's planned for a family after ski racing to allow her to continue her career. But from your perspective, having gone through that yourself, going from a coach to a mum and kind of having to almost forget about that career, what can be changed if there is something that needs to change?
It's tough, right? Like, we like having female coaches is a huge thing, right? Like, we want more female coaches. Every organization is pushing for more female coaches, to change the environment, to make sure, you're able to, have moms in high performance or being able to travel is hard. I mean, there are organizations that are doing it or trying to make it work and figuring out strategies and being creative. And that in the end is, I think, the answer is an organization just needs to figure out ways to be creative, right? Like, whether that's split coaching, like you have two coaches and you're able to split the time between the two, or something like that. And that's what they did with like an Alice McKennis, who's working with her husband this year, Pat Duran, and they were running, the Rocky Regional group, and they were able to figure out ways to bring Alice in and, bring the whole family. And then, but it takes a lot of preparation too on Alice's part, making sure there are babysitters available in New Zealand or somewhere. And so, it's finding balance for sure. And I think that organizations need to just, if they really do want female coaches that are moms at high levels that are raising babies, it's finding that creativity or different ways to look at it and see if there are ways to keep those coaches in the system. This conversation comes up a lot, women coaches, and we need more women coaches. And, at the end of the day, to be honest with you, for me, like, I'm a bit tired of the conversation, because when you look at the whole system, these organizations are trying to push for female coaches, but in the end, it's more actually they're just checking a box. Oh, we hired our female coach, and then they move on. And what is not, like, one thing that I'm watching over and over again is they hire a female assistant coach. And this happened a lot to me, which I was so lucky. So prior to being hired with the US ski team, I ran the Women's Ontario team. And I have to tell you, probably one of the hardest jobs out there is being a head provincial team coach. And it's gotten in Canada, it's gotten easier because they finally have brought back a development team, and so that gap doesn't seem so big. So our requirement as a head provincial team coach for Canada was to make sure that we were moving our athletes from the provincial teams to essentially a C or B team, so their Europa Cup kind of level team. And that gap was substantial, to the point that it really wasn't happening all that often, moving, especially on the female side. We weren't able to really bridge that gap. And two, a lot of the female athletes weren't really seeing anybody bridge that gap. So they're like, screw that route. We're going to go NCAA, which we have seen huge success, especially in Canada, with athletes coming from the NCAA circuit to the World Cup circuit, right? You got a Laurence Saint Germain, you have Amelia Smart, you got these amazing women that are also super intelligent, going to NCAA, getting a full education, and then making their way back and not really losing any time or space, by making that commitment to go to school. And I think one of the hardest parts of that provincial team job that I really learned was essentially how to really be a head coach. I did all my girls' skis every night. I at times had up to 5 girls on the team. I did all video analysis with them every day, did all their strength and conditioning, because at like a lot of times too, these provincial teams don't have a lot of money. So I was just me running this group of girls. And for me to be just as good, if not better than all the teams around me, I had to do all the things that those teams were doing, which was making sure their skis were sharp, making sure they were, they still, a lot of them were in school. So they needed to do their schoolwork, making sure strength and conditioning was set up for them, that they were staying strong and recovering all season. And so I learned so much about helping an athlete manage their time and be successful. But at the end of the day, at the end of those seasons, I was so burnt out, And so I think, and too, I was constantly I was setting by myself. So I was, bringing bundles around. There was times when I had up to 3 bundles and I was dropping them and then going back around and having a set. And so I got a lot of time also setting. So when I came into my role with the U.S. team, my head coach who hired me, he set all the time. And so, but my job was to take the younger girls to the NORAMs or Europa Cups. But the NORAMs, and of course, at NORAMs, they always want a female setter on the female side. For the most part, they want to check that box. Yep, we have a female setter. Or, check, we have a female referee. And this is where I'm seeing our system fail. These female coaches is they will be hired, right, as assistants to check these boxes, but then they're sent to these the NORAM level races while the head coach is doing, maybe going to the World Cup with their faster girls if they were brought up or whatever. And so these assistants are having to set, and they haven't set all year. They haven't set in training. They haven't set at other races. They haven't set a single gate all season. And they arrive at these NORAMs and they're expected to set these NORAMs at a high level. Like, we are putting females to World Cups off of these races. And they are expected to set. And sometimes they fail. And that kills them for the season, right? Because it hurts. It's awful feeling when you're being watched, and so I think that part I've watched a lot and just keep getting more and more frustrated because, okay, yes, your organization is checking a box and saying, oh, we hired a female coach, but at the end of the day, did we put the right coach in that position, and are we giving her enough, does she have enough success underneath her to feel confident to be in those positions, to run them and lead them and be able to feel success at the end of the day along with their athletes, and so that part, I think we need to do a better job. At the end of the day, yes, we need more female coaches at high levels, absolutely. But we need to make sure we have at the very first and foremost competent coaches, female, male, right? That they're hitting all those resumes. And 2, this is a performance-based sport. Do they have performance in their resume? Have they actually created fast ski racers, right? Or are we just kind of moving them around and finding them spots? Do they actually have a resume that says, I have created fast ski racers, I had performance behind me? So I think that is that's my take home. I love the conversation of female coaches. I'm a huge advocate. I mentorships, all of that stuff, that representation matters, absolutely. But are we doing it in the right way? And that's the main question that I would ask every organization. Are you doing it in the right way? Are you putting a coach in that position because they have all the things to be successful in that position, or are you putting them in that position because you as an organization are wanting to check a box?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, there's so many points.
Yeah. And like, you know, I don't know, like this job, like I said in the beginning, it's performance based. So you have to have unbelievably thick skin, right? And I would even say that for any athlete that I worked with, you have to have, especially at the high levels, you have to have unbelievably thick skin, right? There's a lot of times even female coaches get up to those higher levels and are coaching females, and they don't, there's a lot of females that don't actually want to be coached by females. Like, it just doesn't match up. And I've said this too a lot, and something I'll stand by is, you know, I didn't always come into roles and have a lot of success with some athletes because either A, those athletes really were like, who are you? Like, why, you know, what are you doing here? You like, what's your background, you know, or, you know, what brought you in? It's kind of like, prove it to me. Like, I want you to prove that, like, I can trust you and that you know what you're doing. And trust is such a huge thing among females too. Like, for them to take risk as a female athlete, they need to trust you. And so that relationship can take a lot of time. And sometimes you never find it. Like, sometimes you and an athlete, like a coach and an athlete don't gel. They don't find that mixture. And so you don't have that trust. And you might never have that trust. And I had a couple athletes that I got really excited. I might have come in too hot, and I did come in too hot on a couple athletes, and that just severed our relationship, and I couldn't, no matter what I did, I couldn't get it back. And so you learn that very quickly too as a coach, female coach, like, okay, I gotta figure this out. I gotta do this different. I mean, even too, like when I went from coaching U16 head coach here at Craiglee Ski Club in Ontario, I actually coached males, U16 boys, and I was way better at coaching males. And then I got this role with the Ontario women's team, and I was like, okay, I think I need to read some books because I like, of how to be able to coach females and do it well. I felt that I needed a little bit of some backup, like, of just like, okay, how do I go into this? How do I approach it? And at the end of the day, I ended up approaching it how I always, like, who I am, and just bringing my true self to the role. And that helped definitely with trust and building the trust. But sometimes as a female coach, some female athletes just don't want to be coached by a female, and it just doesn't gel. And as an organization too, you have to recognize that maybe, you know, I have this amazing female coach. She doesn't really work very well with men or with women. Let's see how, you know, maybe slot her over and see how she does with males. And some female coaches that I've been around are phenomenal male coaches. Like they coach male athletes way better. And that's a gift when an organization goes, I have this phenomenal coach. Doesn't matter what her gender is, right? I have this phenomenal coach. Let's see, she's not really working out here very well, but I know that she is good. Let's see if she works better over here. And they move her around, and sure enough, boom, success. And so I think it's more about who the person is instead of what their genders are. That helps answer.
Yeah. Where do I begin?
I know.
Yeah.
I can talk about this for a long time, because I think just all the years of too, also being an athlete, like I didn't have, like, I had a couple female coaches here and there, but they were really, like, at that time too, like, you know, there wasn't a lot of them, especially at higher levels. And so, you know, it's I think it's super special to see so many female coaches doing well, especially to, you know, watching ones like a Karen Harjo, who I, you know, have definitely looked up to, and her doing such an amazing job with Michaela Schifrin, but also to the athlete, Michaela, recognizing, like, you know, actually, I might need that in my life too. I might need a little more of that female coach perspective. And I think that that's what has made that relationship so strong as well. Is I think it has to go both ways. Where Michaela was like, I think this could be a really good team and a connection. So
yeah. It seems that the biggest problem is getting it all started. The problems out there with there must be a lot of lady coaches, women coaches. But what holds them back from progressing? Other than, is it the system, or is it actually they don't really want to progress?
I think it could be a combo of a lot of both of those things. I think this is probably going to be a little controversial, but I think sometimes we get into this habit of being like victims, like, oh, like a female coach, it's against me, right? Like I'm a female coach. It's probably just because I'm female, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Instead of taking a different approach, right? And having a different mindset around it. And, I think definitely there are a lot of, like, I have my own stories for sure of, a lot of women being in positions where they really do feel it is because you're a female. But I'm a true believer that you show up every day consistent, you show up every day working hard, and you recognize that it's a performance-based sport. So again, having really thick skin, everybody does, right? And for the most part, males definitely tend to have that thicker skin. Women can have, off days, more sensitivity and that type of thing. But recognizing that you are choosing to be in a sport that we have to, like, it's not a soft sport. Like, the reality of this sport is that you have winners and you have losers, right? Like it's a tough doggy dog sport, especially too when you look at what these athletes are putting themselves through. Like, you have men that are literally throwing themselves down Kitzbühel, madness, right? Like women that are like just the amount of risk that is needing to be taken to do this sport well, and the mindset that these athletes have to get into. Like, there is no way to soften this sport. It is what it is. And that's what makes this sport so amazing, is because of just the mental toughness and the resiliency that all of you, like all the athletes build up, or even coaches too, build up because of what this sport is. So, and to recognizing that these athletes are constantly under scrutiny, right? Like, because it is performance based and they have to meet certain criterias, and they're sometimes in a short amount of time they've got to meet that criteria. And so we can't soften this sport. So you have to have thick skin to be in this sport. And so with female coaches and wanting to have more female coaches, like, if you decide to take a role in this sport, you have to recognize that. And it's every age, you're asking kids to do different things that are put them at risk. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is recognizing that as a female coach, and then coming in and just taking away the female part and just be a coach, be consistent, show up, work hard, know that this is a physical job as well. There was days I was on a hose watering a ski slope for 8 hours a day. And that comes with the job. You like creating an environment to make sure that your athletes are successful and they're getting what they need. It's physically demanding on a coach. There's coaches out there that are shoveling hours and hours before the athletes even get on the hill, and to be able to ski, train and get down to that hard surface that they had because they had snow the night before. So meeting those physical demands as well. And so I'm a huge advocate of, like, just take the female part. We are all coaches. Show up, be consistent, do your job, work hard. And yeah, there are tough days, some days, with being a female coach. But I think to maybe finding a mentor or finding people that you really respect in the industry as well also help. Having those conversations, you have a beaten down day, having somebody to call and just have those conversations too. So then the next day you wake up and you are consistent and do the same, what you need to do as a coach.
And before you got into the coaching aspect of the sport, you had a very successful college career racing. You were very consistently on the NORAM podium, and I believe very close to the World Cup and even the Olympics.
So yeah, I raced at University of Colorado. I grew up skiing in Colorado. I was born and raised in Breckenridge, skied out at Team Summit. So Copper Mountain was my home. So I was super spoiled because they started the whole downhill training, early season training at Copper when I was coming up. So I got a lot of time training speed. And one of my biggest memories, I was young, I was 14, 15 coming up, and I got to train with, the Lindsey Vonn, Julia Mancuso, Libby Ludlow, just some amazing females on that U.S. team. And I got that training by, I would run their skis in. So I would be able to, I'd get the speed training in with them early morning at Copper. And then after I was done with my speed training with them, I would then cycle back up and I'd meet a couple of the technicians that did their skis, and I would run skis in for them. So I would just they had a start and a finish, and I would get into a tuck, same tuck, and I would just do it for hours, just running their skis in so I could get training early morning with them doing speed. So it was really cool. So I got to be around a lot of those US coaches when I was really young and be able to just watch what those girls do at the start, how they prepare themselves. And it was really an amazing experience for me. And two, just seeing how hard those technicians also work on speed skis and how many skis those girls had. It was crazy. And so that was a cool world to be a part of. And then I had some struggles of trying to make the U.S. team when I was younger. They had different criteria that they kept changing. And so I ended up going to University of Colorado, which actually was a blessing. I got, full education paid for and then also got to ski. And University of Colorado was so supportive. They allowed me and paid for me to go to all my NORAMs and all my NORAM races. So that was not a lot of athletes get those paid for, and it becomes a really expensive season. So I was pretty lucky there. And after I got done, I had a huge ACL injury in University of Colorado when I was there, and won an NCAA championship. But
who else was in
while
that
I
team?
was there, what?
Who else was in that team with you?
Who else was there? We had so many fast skiers. So Erica Gent, Kirsten Cooper were the Americans, Lisa Perricone, Jenny Allen, and then Carolina Nord was there. She just came off the Swedish team. Sarah Rask, Sarah Hartman. We had so many fast girls. That team was stacked. It was so cool to be around. And then the men's side was unbelievable too. We had a couple Norwegian guys and some really fast American guys. The cool part of what Richie Rokos at the time, the head coach, tried to do was he did bring in foreigners, which was awesome. Really fast ones, but he also really tried to keep it very local as well. So at the time we actually had a lot of Colorado kids, which was cool. So a bunch of the guys that I grew up ski racing with around all the same age that I'd known since 5 years old, we were all on the same team together. So it really built up this whole culture and this environment that was strong, which I think really led to us winning our NCAA championship in 2010, or 2011. So it was just a cool environment to be around. And then we went on, and then I graduated in 2012, but I wasn't quite ready to be done with ski racing. I was still hitting podiums at NORAMs and really felt that I still had a lot of speed left. And at the time that was not really something that people did. They didn't keep continuing after university. And so myself and two other girls, Megan McJames and Haley Duke, started a independent women's team, which like that also was a whole new thing. So it was called Independent Ski Racing, and the three of us put together this team. And we were all just trying to make it either back onto the national team, make it to the national team, just racing World Cups too, or racing to get to the Olympics in 2014. And so it was like unheard of to have an independent team that was operating like around the same races as like the national teams at the time. And so it was super cool. I learned so much. We had to, go out and try and find sponsors and partners and trying to make money for ourselves in a world that like social media wasn't really around as much yet. It was just coming on. And I got to tell you, I can sell snow to an Eskimo. I cannot sell myself. Like trying to sell myself was like one of the hardest things I had ever done. And so I learned so much about myself that when I kept ski racing and kept trying to like make it to 2014, I think one of my biggest issues was I was really struggling trying to sell myself as a brand and get money. I would rather go work 10 jobs than try and like make phone calls to people and be like, this is why you need to believe in me. And I think if I were to, do it again, or I'm watching a lot of athletes that are independent athletes, really trying to fight their way and do the things that like, I was trying to do back in 2012, 2013. It's so inspiring to watch some of these athletes do that. Like, my interview I just had with Felix Motensen, like it's so inspiring because that was something that I was not good at, and just couldn't wrap my head around it. So, and then I went on to I was sitting, I think, first or second the overalls in 2013 with the NORAMs, and I got sat down. I was doing really well in speed, and I got sat down by the late Trevor Wagner, who just passed, and he was like, "Hey, we want to take you to Cortina. We want to see really what you have, and this is like a time trial essentially for the 2014 Olympics, because at the time I was doing really well against the girls that were on the team that they were looking to take to the 2014 Olympics. So that night I sat down with him. I said that would be amazing, and I was still being really stubborn. I wanted to ski all 4 events, which in hindsight, looking back, and even as a coach now, I would have tried to sit myself down and be like, you shouldn't be skiing all 4 events. You should really focus on GS, Super G, and downhill maybe, but really focusing on maybe just 2. But I really felt like I could do all 4 and wanted to keep pushing for that overall title in the NORAM. And the next day did a career-ending injury and just done, out of the sport. And so trying to figure out how to make that transition from all of a sudden so close to, sitting with my leg up and barely a knee left and trying to, rehab 2 knees was something that was pretty, it was 180. And so I had to figure out, what do I do next? And for me, the easiest thing was, let's maybe go into coaching, see how this goes.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to take you back to the coaching thing. Mm-hmm. How you are. How you've got the collegiate for the races. Mm-hmm. Is there any course of any sort set up for coaches?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think every organization or every country has their own coach development courses, right? That they give out or that you're required. So with like when I was with the U.S. ski team, or even now doing coach development with the U.S., like you have to go through a certain amount of courses to then be like actually like a certified coach. Like here's your certification, you can stand on the hill. Like you're able to be on the hill. And so every country I think has their own mandate for that. Canada too, they have certain courses that you have to go through to just be eligible to be on the hill as a coach. And then as a coach, then there's offers of like other courses to keep like learning and growing and educating yourself to just become a better coach. Not a lot of people dive into those or take those, but for like, and some of those courses are worthwhile. Some of them are just, again, like checking the box and saying, okay, I did them, and move on to the next step, and now I'm a level 300 coach, or I'm a whatever you call it in your own country type, like level coach. But at the end of the day, it's about experience, I believe, and making sure you're finding the right mentors and the people you respect, and like you're doing things that push you out of your comfort zone, and you're grabbing a drill and you're saying, I'm setting today, and you're getting those reps in that time and that mentorship, and you're asking more questions. It's actually funny that I got my job with the U.S. ski team not because I was looking for a job with the U.S. ski team. So I'll explain. I was with the Ontario women's team. I had been there for 2 years, but I knew that I needed more. I needed more, like I needed to go out and maybe do a camp where I went with a bunch of, veteran coaches that I could watch, and like with faster girls to get more experience, or things that I could take from them to bring back and be able to coach. I just felt like I needed more. And so I cold called at the time Jesse Hunt, who was running the US team. I cold called him and I was like, hey, this is Katie Hartman. This is what I'm doing. I am asking to see if there's any opportunity to come on a camp with some of your coaches so I can learn more. And I got a call back. I was in Mexico, having like a trip with Cam and just like decompressing from the season, because it was a long season with the provincial team. And I get a call back from Jesse, and he goes, sorry for the delay. I got your email, or I got your phone call. He's like, Katie Hartman, like long time, like what have you been up to? So we talked and chatted about what I've been doing, and that I, got into coaching. I'm running the Women's Ontario team. And he's like, actually, we might have a job for you. And I was like, whoa. I was like, to be honest with you, I wasn't calling to get a job, but would love to, hear what that job is. And, their women's team was growing on the tech side under Magnus Anderson and Chris Champagny at the time. And Chris Champagny and I grew up together, and they were like, they need a third coach. Like, would you be interested? And I was like, absolutely. That'd be awesome. And so I ended up getting a job with the U.S. team, not because I was looking for one, but I was just looking for more experience, or just to like tag along essentially on a camp and see if I could learn more. And so I think the biggest thing for coaches, and something I always try and tell coaches, is, reach out, get out of your comfort zone. If you don't ask, you don't get. And so I think the more, if you want to move up, and the more you want to like take your career into your own hands and make it happen, make those phone calls, make those awkward introductions. If you know somebody that knows somebody, ask them to introduce you. Like, that's what's going to get you those reps, that time, that experience, is like asking for it and like wanting it. I feel like a lot of times we have great coaches in positions, but they're not moving up, or they're not willing to move up because they don't ask those questions, or they're just like, well, no one's asked me to move up. It's like, no, ask them to move up. You ask them to move up.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, that would be like a huge piece of advice that I would give. And like, so even any coach out there that's looking for something different, or you want to raise, that's another issue we've had to in this industry is, the price of living is getting expensive, especially here in North America. It's crazy, the prices, and I think everywhere right now. And so, if you want coaches to make this their career, you need to make sure you are paying them to make this their career. We have a lot of, the worst I always hear is we have a lot of jobs being offered, unfortunately, too, at the national team level, but they're a 9-month contract. And you're like, what coach, besides for really young ones that are maybe still living with their parents, or like being able to like make it work, maybe they have a significant other that's like making it work for them, what 9-month contract is going to A, allow you to live, but B, like what do you do in the those other months, right? But allow you to live. And then like, how do you get a mortgage out of a 9-month contract? How do you make, like, if you are going to have a coach only be a 9-month contract, you got to make sure it's either worthwhile for them, or that you believe in them enough that you're going to sign them on for a year and have them actually like make this a career. That I think is a huge thing that organizations like clubs, academies, national teams, everybody needs to look at. Like, if we want to keep coaches and really good coaches, how do we make this work and make this their career? We got to pay them, and we got to make sure we're giving them contracts that allow them to live.
Yeah, exactly. Let's touch a bit on the current team and the team that you have covered quite a lot this past season. A very successful US women's team that you had coached a small number of that group on the Europa Cup side. So how impressed have you been, particularly with the women and their performances on the World Cup, and how fun has that been to cover for you? Surely one of the best parts of the job, seeing your girls now.
Yeah,
smashing
that was such an amazing job to come in and just be around those girls. Like that group is a super.
So just tell us who was in that group.
Okay, so I was lucky enough to be able to work with like Katie Hensian, Paula Moltzen, not a little bit, Nina O'Brien a little bit, AJ Hurd a little bit, and just like Keely Cashman too was in that group when I was coming up. I just that group of females are athletes are pretty special to watch, just in how, because every single one of them has such a different story. They have had different setbacks. They've had, the resiliency that each one of them has had to go through in their own ways and their own lives, is just to know those backstories and then to see them succeed or have success that they're looking for it's pretty special, and I was funny enough, like Paula Moltzen and Nina, like I was looking at start lists on like towards the end of my career. Nina was just starting hers in FIS. And so we were on like the same, NORAM sheet at one time, or FIS sheet. And so she was, starting all the way, farther back. And so that was cool, like to just like be a small part of like watching her keep growing and maturing. And then too, Paula Moltzen and I have known each other since we were little. And so I mean, she in itself, her story is unbelievable, and what she's like gone through and all the different, hurdles she's had to go through to get to where she is it's pretty phenomenal to watch. So I'm a big fan in general and watching those girls. And I worked a lot too with Katie Hensian. We were grinding a lot, going back and forth between, World Cup and Europa Cup. And she really hadn't quite made that World Cup step yet. And she was trying, she was doing, and finally we were in Semmering, and she finally made that top 30, and she, like, at the time, I think because as a coach, you just watch so much of their successes, so much of their failures. Like you're just along with it. And you as a coach are trying to stay as consistent as possible, right? So because this sport can have so many ups and downs, you need to be the consistency in their life. And I just like, I remember that moment when she made the top 30 and I was just like, oh my God, like that was so awesome. Like her and I like just couldn't even hold back the excitement or the emotion. Like it was just so high, the emotion of that. And pretty cool to watch her keep succeeding, fighting through, like having her setback with her knee and then fighting through it and coming back, and Solden was unbelievable, and like coming back from an ACL, like, so overall, like watching that group has been pretty cool to watch. So yeah, I was lucky to have just a small little, glimpse into their lives for 2 years, and then just watching them keep growing and succeeding is pretty fun for me.
Yeah, and how nice is it now to be able to tell those stories of athletes you may well have known for a very long time, but also, like you mentioned, Monson there earlier, and stories like that. It is, of course, the entirety of the job that you're in. But
yeah,
I know we've touched on it there, but to now kind of be able to come in it from a third and completely different angle by, having these conversations which you can bring people to life with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I actually like my husband and I were sitting the other day talking about it, and I, before I actually met Cam, and when I was trying to find something to do post, university, I was racking my brain of like, do I just, throw in the towel and maybe move to New York City and get in, like, I wanted to become a journalist, like a reporter for ESPN, and I wanted to go and work for ESPN. So it's funny now to like look back on that and then come full circle to this job and be like, well, I'm kind of actually doing that. Like I'm, interviewing athletes, and I'm putting together these, exceptional articles on these athletes, and or just like in the sport and trying to promote the sport as much as possible. It's pretty cool to see a little bit of that, that dream back then of like becoming an ESPN reporter to like now reporting, but doing it with Ski Racing Media. So yeah, this job has been definitely a learning curve for sure. And I miss being out on the ski hill and like, helping. I really loved the art of coaching, of trying to work with athletes individually and find their strengths and help them through their weaknesses and figure out what makes them fast, what makes them tick. And that type of coaching really brought such, like, I'm talking about it, like, I love that, the passion behind that. So I definitely miss that a little. I miss that a lot. But
Would you go back?
this is what?
Would you go back?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would go back if like it, once I'm able to, and I'm have the time, or the little ones are grown up and I'm able to, I would love to go back. I do. I really love coaching, and I love coaching at the higher levels, but like mainly I really love that level of like NORAM Europa Cup, because you can still really make changes.
Yeah.
But it also can be really a tough area, because if you don't quite make it to that next level, you as a coach are also having really tough conversations, of like ending careers. Yeah, exactly. Like helping athletes essentially move on to their next stage of life or their next chapter of life. So I found that NORAM Europa Cup level so interesting, because you're doing so much, right? You're helping them to try and keep moving up, but you're also could be helping them to find their next chapter in life. I don't know. It's a very interesting level.
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe that's the secret, because all the women are waiting for someone up there to lead them. And the way you're talking, you're the lady. So So don't be surprised if somebody watches this and gives you a phone call.
I don't know, but
You never-
you never know.
Yeah,
You never know.
so
But
you're so passionate about it.
yeah,
And all it needs, I think all it needs is someone to say, come on, girls, I'll take you. And that's
I
what
mean,
I think,
I think that's the biggest part of a coaching job that a lot of times we miss and don't understand is like those hard conversations. Like they're adult enough. Even I had hard conversations with 15-year-olds, right? Like they need it. They want somebody that's in their corner, believes in them, and believes in them enough that they're going to have hard conversations with them of like, hey, we need to sit down and talk. We need to have these conversations now so we can move forward and in the right direction. I think we miss sometimes. Maybe this is where the female coach might be the best, who knows? But I feel like sometimes we miss those hard conversations and we need to have them, and those female athletes are looking for those hard conversations sometimes, and just somebody to like, yep. Or even an athlete, like athletes are looking for those hard conversations of like, yeah, you're right. I had one of my hardest conversations as an athlete came actually from my technician at the time. And I was being a moody, sourpuss athlete, victim, everything else is everybody else's fault, not mine. It had nothing to do with the fact that I went way too straight and had zero tactical awareness. And no, that it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with, my skis weren't sharp enough or, all these other excuses. And at the time, it was kind of new, like our relationship, technician and I. And he looked at me and he was like, no problem. I hear you about the skis. But he's like, your execution or your expectation is exceeding your execution. And I just looked at him and he looked at me and I was like, thank you. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm over here being just a brat and like it's everybody else's fault. But at the end of the day, I did not execute, And so, yeah, my expectation is exceeding my execution and I need to get my shit together. And I was like, oh my God, you are right. And so from my technician, like that was like a really hard, like eye-opening conversation that I was like, boom, him and I immediately trust. I was like, yep, you are going to be there for me because you can sit down and have some tough conversation with me and you're not scared of me turning around and go, F you. Right? He was just like, he just gave it to me and I was like, all right, no, yep, you're right. Let's move on. And then from then on, it was like, we didn't even have to have a conversation. It was like, boom. And another moment too, I had my main coach I had most of my life. I was winning the NORAM in Panorama, and we still did combined. So it was the Super G and then the slalom, and I was winning the Super G part, and I couldn't find any of my slalom stuff. I was still like buzzing from winning the Super G and so excited. And I was sitting next to another coach and I was like, hey, can you radio my coach and see, what like my slalom stuff and all this stuff. The coach goes, hey, Hartman's here, she's having issues finding her slalom stuff and she's going to be running late. And my coach gets on the radio and this is broadcasted across probably 10 other Rocky regional coaches. And it was like, hey, Hartman, get your head out of your ass and go and find your slalom shit. I was like, okay, I will go find my slalom stuff, but it was like I needed that, like, hey, get over yourself. We still have more racing to do. You still need to like perform. Go and get your stuff. And I was like, immediately, like everything changed, switched, and like, and like that coach and I had a relationship, we still do, that it was so close. And but it was because he was able to like have those hard conversations, but also to, have that expectation in me of like, you can do this. And he believed. And so you're like, yep, okay, you're right. Let's do this. So I think that is sometimes missed. It's a missed opportunity for those coaches. Like, you know, I had a great talk with Francis Royale, who I have a lot of respect for, and he and I chatted about this idea of like, we're not standing over them on a bench. You sit down with them on the bench, right? Like they sit next to you and you are in it together. And that's what it should be. That's what the relationship should look like. You shouldn't be, you know, if your coaching style is standing over a kid and coaching them from above, it doesn't work. You know, you need to sit down on the bench with them and like take that as the opportunity to really, really get to know your athlete and what allows them to like the whole person and coaching that whole person. So
yeah, you spoke about some of the difficult conversations and aspects of coaching there, but what are the difficult and most challenging parts of your current job?
My current job.
Is it the 3 a.m.s when the races are on?
You know what? It's kind of like, I mean, those are tough for sure. Like getting up at, you know, the butt crack of dawn, 3 a.m., 2 a.m. Like those are definitely tough.
It must be good when it's in Tremblant, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's in the time zones that we, you know, the North American races that are in our time zones. But I actually enjoy it because it's quiet in the house and I'm able to sit and actually watch ski racing. And like, I'm such a huge fan of ski racing and watching. I mean, this year watching, yes, women's ski racing, huge. Watching men's slalom this year was unbelievable. Like the level that men's slalom has come up to, like it's so cool to watch.
And you and Peter split men's and women's, don't you? So you're able to cover
so
pretty
we
much
like
every discipline.
Yeah, we actually flip coins, like if we don't care, which neither of us do because we love watching both. So we like flip coins, like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And so we get to do everything, which is also fun. We get to like, you know, stay up on, you know, men and women, which I enjoy a lot to be able to watch all of them. So, and it's become kind of a thing in our house because if it's a tech race, usually the second run starts at 7 or 6:30 here on Eastern time. And so my kids are awake. And so whether they like it or not, are forced to watch ski racing and they're getting into it. So, which I don't know if that's a good thing either. Like both Kim are like, oh my God, hopefully, you know, ski racing, it's expensive. But
do they have a favorite racer? Your kids?
What?
Your kids have a favorite racer?
They know what's up. Like they really know the American girls because I point them out and show my 4-year-old like, hey, there's Paula, there's Nina, there's Michaela, like there's Katie. Like she like sees them and that's like she watches. That's where she'll like actually like turn her attention and actually watch. But yeah, for the most part, you know, that part is easy. I think for me the hardest part is actually just the actual like website designing stuff. And I've really had to like, you know, figure out and up my game on social media and figure out how to, you know, stay up on that. And I think that's more the harder part is the ins and outs, like writing articles, doing interviews, you know, watching World Cup. Those parts are easy. That's what makes the job so exciting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm sure you do too.
I do, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Just lucky that it's like a reasonable hour for us, really.
I know. Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay for us because
it's never
most of them are in Europe, so we're only an hour out, aren't we?
And even the American ones are afternoon, evening. They're never
exactly.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good for that.
I have a little like my Eastern, like because I'm on the Eastern. You know, like. Yeah, so mine's a little bit better. Like Peter's waking up at like 1 a.m. because he's in Colorado. He's 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could never. Well, yeah, it's just not easy. Those times would be like 3, 4 o'clock are not that bad. 4 o'clock's not that bad.
Yeah.
What time do you go to bed?
I'm a pretty early. I go to bed anyway early. Like I go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, getting up at 4, I would.
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
wouldn't. You don't.
I wouldn't stay. No.
No, you don't.
For the World Cup, yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
When there's
Yeah.
football games on all of the time. Yeah.
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 I've got a kind of an extended quickfire question section that I'd like to run because there's so many different aspects to your career to ask quickfire questions about. So, have you got a bit of time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, from a racing perspective, the best moment of your career?
Best moment of my career. There was a lot of really good ones. I won the overall at U.S. Nationals. The year I was with that independent ski racing team, that was really cool. That was a cool moment. Being an overall and racing against some, amazing American girls that I've been racing against, all my life. So that was a cool moment. I definitely think one of the bigger moments and the biggest highlights was, sitting down with Trevor Wagner at the time and him saying like, let's go do this. Let's go to Cortina and let's go race World Cup. I think that was like the moment where I was like, okay, this all was worth something, right? That was really cool.
From racing perspective as well. Sorry, I've just realised I didn't ask you if you had anything else to add.
No, you're all right. Carry on.
You can go in a minute if you want.
I'll come in if I want to.
Oh, all right. Racing-wise, your best friend in the sport at the time, kind of, through your younger years?
My best friend. Besides for my two sisters, my entire bridal party was all of the women that I grew up ski racing with against my biggest competitors. My entire bridal party was all the women I grew up with. So like, I owe ski racing so much because I didn't really fit in very well in high school or middle school, really. I just, I was super athletic, spoke my mind a little bit, probably too much. And, sometimes that's not great in middle school and high school. And so I didn't have a lot of friends and struggled. And I think that struggle also led me to essentially want to ski faster because the faster I skied, the less time I had to be in school, which was great. And so I think, ski racing really saved me in a social aspect because I made my best of friends that I still have known since, we were 5. We're still so close. And so I think that part of I owe so much to ski racing for that, to the friendships that you grow in this sport are pretty phenomenal. And like I said, those women that stood by me when I got married to Cam were actually some of my biggest competitors. So it's pretty cool what the sport gives when it comes to friendships and, social, and, it's just a group of crazy, weird people that like to throw themselves down mountains, icy mountains, and, hope at the end of the day they get to the finish line the fastest and then get on a chairlift with all your friends again. It's just the craziest, weirdest sport, and it's super cool.
Yeah, you're right. You couldn't imagine a football team having the rivals football team at their wedding, let's say.
Right.
That just wouldn't happen.
No.
But in ski racing, you're not the only one that's done that, I bet.
Yeah, just the most recent, biggest wedding, right? Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And probably all the guys standing next to Travis Kelce are either his brother or the guys that, protect him or stand by him on a football field. And all the women that literally stood up for me that day were, those were some of the women that I was, we would be at the start, in first and second place and trying to beat each other. And then getting on a chairlift together at the end of the day, one of us won and one of us lost. And then start, back to a friendship again. Like it's just it's
different.
it's different. It's such a weird sport.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is, we've said this so many times. I've never seen any sport anywhere in the world where the athletes are so close as ski races. Whether they win, lose, all right, they're not going to be over the moon about it.
Right.
But they're so generous with the praise of other people,
Totally.
of other athletes. It's phenomenal. And this is, all these things are the things what made us want to do this.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it and we think everyone should know about it. Because when they watch other sports and you see how idiotic some of them are, I think in a lot of sports these days they have to go to acting school before they go to before they play.
I cannot, and I know you two are big fans. I cannot watch men's soccer. I can't watch the FIFA. I get way too frustrated. I think there's like a combination of like, I get frustrated because literally I birthed 2 children and like these guys are getting like their pinky toe hit by like kind of a guy's elbow or a foot and they fall over like they are dying. And you're like, watch the sport. I just cannot do it. I have, and maybe too, it's a bit of coming from, a ski racing background where I, not only as an athlete did I take some crazy crashes, and get right back, like bounce back up and go and collect my skis and, get my shit out of the fencing. But like, I've also as a coach watched athletes take unbelievable crashes and like, you get to them, you're like, hey, you doing okay? And they like, yeah, I'm doing okay. And you're, they're wiping their, snow off. And then they're like, oh, thanks for collecting my skis. And you're like, dude, you can take 5 seconds, like take some deep breaths. That was an unbelievable crash. And it's like, they just like get back up. No problem. And so I think for me watching soccer, FIFA has been very frustrating because I'm like, oh my God, like these guys, the drama of getting, elbowed makes me so frustrated.
I think the biggest one for me on this is like Schifrin and Vlhova. Like they are the absolute sheerest of rivals in terms of women's slalom for the best part of a decade before they both kind of got injured. But the way that they kind of sat down and did a podcast together and they were just always go and congratulate each other. I remember that race in Levy the year before we first went, like Schifrin was like, you should have won today. Like this is not my win. This is yours, when she DNF'd in 2023. Yeah. And it's just the utmost, it's the difference between respect for athletes, because Ronaldo and Messi respect each other greatly, but the friendship, like they would go and have dinner together. Like a lot of these people do that. Never mind saying that they would. They actually do.
The friendship part is so. I think I used to have a coach. I had a coach, and this is how he like built our culture around our University of Colorado. So Richie would make us go and do the most unbelievable, like hardest physical things out there. Like suffer. It was that idea of like you suffer together. And then that you become a better team because like you're all suffering and you like maybe hate that one person all together. So it brings you together kind of thing. But like, I kind of think of that in ski racing a little bit. And like, this sport is so difficult and it requires so much resiliency and passion because there's guys that have been on that World Cup circuit for 10 plus years or and they still haven't seen a podium, but they're still like every day showing up because maybe that one day they're going to have that run, and I think that's what like, it's that idea, like not necessarily we're suffering, but like everybody worked it at that higher level. Like to get there, you have to have something a little bit off because it's such a crazy sport and it's, it doesn't matter how beautiful you make skiing look. If like it's literally how fast you can go from start to finish. And but it takes so much to get to that start that you have to have a grouping and you have to have that team behind you. And I think it's that idea of like you kind of are in it together and you get it, and there's so much respect for one another because you're doing this crazy sport together and trying to do it well. I think that's what kind of brings that friendship, or at least even if they're not friends, that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's supposed to be quick fire, but it's okay. we'll just keep talking about ski racing. That's absolutely fine. Next up, we'll stick with coaching for a moment, and the best moment of your coaching career.
Oh, best moment of my coaching career was there's a couple. One of them was when Katie Twible got into the top 30. Like, to watch her finally do that breakthrough, and like there's something about getting into that top 30, and then once you finally get in, because after that point it's actually a lot more mental. Like for the most part, most of those girls all ski very similar, have the same tactics. It's the mental piece of like really believing you deserve to be there, right? Like you should be there, you deserve to be there. It's that mental click of like, no, this is actually where I deserve to be, and I know I can do it. And so the moment she got into that top 30 in Semmering, it was like, yes, because you could just see it from then on in training, in just the way that like thought how she operated and like kept going. It just like showed like that mental click of like, yes, I do deserve to be here. So that was super cool to watch, and like an amazing moment. I also think watching and being just there and a part of Paula's first podium and Lek, where she, got on that first podium, and that too, I think, was that mental click of like, I am one of the top competitors and I can be there. That was cool to watch. And then when I was with the Ontario women's team, I had an athlete that her goal was to go to NCAAs, and we were really having a tough year, grinding, and she finally, the last couple races, put everything together and had 2 unbelievable scores, and was able to was accepted to her number 1 pick for NCAA on a scholarship. That for me as a coach was like, okay, that is so, like, that was a really, really cool moment in my beginning of my career, and to also being a head coach of this team that, it was such a grind every day that it was like that moment I was like, all right, that's a cool moment to be a part of, and to just see that, like, that success and wanting that.
Yes, skiing is believing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
She knows. I'm just touching again on that group that you had and where they are now from where you worked with them. Do you believe that, and particular focus here on Paula, do you believe that she can win, and do you believe that the other girls can reach that goal of the podium, which I'm sure people like Nina and Katie have got on their mind?
100%. I think
Really as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think those girls I think they still all have a bunch of speed left in them. 100%. And I think it's just about tapping into that and on those days and finding that speed. And I think we're going to see some phenomenal things this next year, and see some massive, success from that group, which is, I think, going to be so cool to watch.
Your favorite ski racer ever?
Great. That's a great question. I have a couple that
Was there someone growing up that you kind of like really idolized?
So growing up, of course, idolized Peekaboo Street. Like, that woman, watching her was unbelievable. She was so cool to, watch ski race and just be around. I was a huge, watching from afar Bodie Miller operate, and the way that he operated, he was so cool to watch. He would do this cool thing where he would, in training, he would take a run, and at the bottom of the run, he would like run it through his head of like how the run went, and then he would replay it again doing it the right way, and then he would go back around. And so like when I heard he was doing that, well, immediately I started doing that, and like yeah. But one of the biggest ones that I met when I was really young, and they had like a signing thing at Copper Mountain. I went to, I think I was like 14 or 15, and couple of those guys were like two cool guys, but I walked up to Darren Rawls, and
I knew that was coming.
Oh, like just the conversation, like gave me the time of day, chatted with me, asked me, about my skiing, where I was from, who was I, and then just having a generic conversation with him about just like life was so cool and super impactful that I was like, I hope if I ever get to that level where I'm like signing autographs that like I'm not a too cool kid. Like I like sit and actually have conversations with people and get to talk, just like get to have that same kind of like impact, I guess. And it was like that moment I was like, that guy's good shit. I was like, that's a cool guy, and walked away from that. So but it was a really fun. Actually, just at Copper World Cups, Peekaboo Street was out, sliding around and doing her thing, and so it was kind of cool to meet up with her and like take a picture and just be like that. You still get like that like fan, you're like, yeah, you were pretty awesome, still are, but that was cool to watch her race.
You know about meeting races and being a fan, don't you?
Yeah.
We still do that all the time.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Who with?
Anyone. any current races. You go on, ask me the question, you're going to say, who's your favourite question?
No, everyone knows who listens to this podcast. Kate knows, I know. It's McKenna Schifrin.
Well, you've got to, because she's one of the few athletes where the skis must have been, when she was born, she must have had them attached to her. Because I've watched her a couple of times. And I've watched lots of skiers. And although, I've never been a racer, but I feel watching that she's one of the very few athletes whose skis very rarely leave the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever she's doing, her skis are always on the snow. She must work, well, she does work hard, I know, but only because of Instagram. But, going back to what you say about the quickfire, who's your favourite? Obviously, she's my favourite. But Armott's not killed her, but Armott.
Shettle
Armott. He was one.
I love it. So I watched Michaela from the side of the fence, or by the fence, win her first NORAM when she was young, when she was coming up, and I was winning after first run, and I fell. No, I wasn't winning. I think she was winning, because then I would have watched her. Anyway, I was on the side. I think I was sitting in second or something, and I fell, and my entire binding peeled off. That's what made me fall. Like the screws, everything came off. And I was standing on the side, and I watched her come down, and I was like, no one screw with her. Like, because that as coaches, we can do a really good job of screwing athletes up. Like we're really good at it. We take a really fast athlete and we make them slower somehow. It happens. It's like, instead, I remember even having this conversation. I was older. I was watching Quebec, Michaela Tommy. She was an amazing Quebec athlete. She was coming up. She was 15. She made the Alpine Canada team. And I remember I was coming back around, and I was sliding the hill after getting my stuff and out of NORAM. And I was standing next to Frances Royale at the time, who was the Quebec coach. And I looked at Frank after Michaela Tommy came down, and I was like, just don't screw her up, man. Like, that's like the kind of athlete I was. It was like I just spoke my mind, and probably that got me into a lot of trouble. But I just straight up looked at Frank and I was like, just don't screw her up. And I slipped away. I like then got into the slipping group and slid away. And like 10 years later, when I was running the Ontario team and I was working alongside Francis, he's like, do you remember ever saying that to me? And I was like, I don't. But now I do. Actually, it's coming back. And he's like, that was like the most meaningful thing that somebody has said to me in so long. And he's like, I still replay it in my head when I get these like fast athletes, because I'm like, oh my God, just don't screw them up. Just let them do their thing and like give them guidance. But like, you know, as coaches, sometimes we can like actually make them slower, right? So sometimes you have these special athletes like a Michaela Schifrin that they're just like on snow and they're so successful that, you know, just let them do their thing, you know, and then give them guidance and like help. But some of them are just so special like that you're like, just don't screw them up.
Yeah.
I've got one more.
Okay.
The favorite piece that you've written for Ski Racing Media?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And don't try to ask me, because I don't know.
No, that one's really hard because they've all been different. You know, I really try to write pieces that either are impactful in a way that are thinking pieces, right? That like, hey, let's really look at this and dive into this. That was like the piece I wrote on, you know, the Canadian, you know, tech men's system, or you know, just looking at all of the pieces, like, you know, our women or our men's slalom team with US, like those pieces I really enjoyed kind of diving into and figuring out like, hey, let's get some thought behind this and some thought provoking and see if there's a way to generate some sort of change or thought that can lead to change. I do really love getting to know athletes individually, you know, and especially some of the young ones coming up, like super cool to get to know some of them and then watch their paths and get the, you know, see their successes and know a bit of their story. So that one's a hard one. There has been a lot I've really enjoyed. Actually, the writing piece and getting into my writing has been something that I didn't know that I could do or was very good at, and I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for all your great work and help with me as well down the last year or so. It's been,
thank you.
Great to work with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for more to come. So it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. And don't forget, listen for that phone call. No, it's you're so passionate about the women progressing in coaching. You need to find a way for them so they can do that.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
It's difficult. It is difficult. And don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of things that I talk about are through my own, you know, mistakes or things that I've learned or that I haven't done very well with, or, you know, yeah. So I definitely, there's a lot of things there that I have learned through the years of, you know, not only being the athlete that I was, but the coach. And I think, you know, the more we can just keep making coaches competent and, you know, find their own successes as well as coaches, I think the better we're going to be in the long run, right? Our long-term goals, like we have so many, I mean, every club I feel like is looking for coaches right now. You know, we have the athletes. We're doing, like, ski racing is thriving. We have kids that are wanting to ski race. We are losing coaches quickly, and it's not just female coaches.
So maybe it needs to be renamed Coaching is Believing.
No, yeah.
New podcast idea for you.
Yeah, new podcast. Yeah.
No, Thank you very much
Well,
for your time.
thank you both.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk soon.
100%. Thanks, guys.
Before we go for this week, another huge thank you from myself, Matt Garker, to Katie for joining us a couple of weeks back now to discuss all things ski racing, because she has been involved in so many different aspects, as you'll know, as you will have learned if you listened to this one. Alan and I will be back once again this time next week to bring you another interview that will be with one of the top US ski team athletes, so stay tuned for that. There's much more to come. This week is the first week of FIS competition racing down in South America. They are due to set off on Thursday from Argentina before the events in Chile as well as New Zealand and Australia get started throughout August, which is just this week. So yeah, all that to look forward to even before the World Cup season gets started again once more in October in Solden, of course. Alan and I will be across all of that, up to, including, and beyond. So stay tuned, there's a lot to come. Thank you very much to Ski Racing Media for their continued support. Thanks to Katie for joining us. And of course, thanks to Alan as ever. But for now, we will ski later. Goodbye.